All right. Welcome everybody to another episode of Stark After Dark. It's the comic show about relationships, love, and all that good stuff. And today I have a wonderful guest, Rain Coleman.
Hello. Happy to be here. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And he is the host of several other wonderful podcasts that you should listen to. I'm going to let you're doing so many things. I'm going to let you run them down just so I don't miss anything.
Uh, okay. I've Carefree Black Nerd for one, which is covering obscure and lesser known characters of color in comics that have been forgotten and some that are mishandled. I have a Riverdale podcast, Welcome to Riverdale, covering the CW's Riverdale show. I have Road to Wakanda, which was a countdown to the Black Panther movie, but now is like continuing on that history lesson of Black Panther. I have also Insecure, which is an Insecure review show. It's honestly, it's it's a lot. I just wrapped up the summer series, and that was like Living Single review, Pose review, My House review. It was a lot. Now I'm kind of slowing down,
Yeah.
getting into the fall, and just like hopefully no more than 3 shows a week.
All
Hopefully.
right. But out here working though, which is good.
Ooh, I'm trying. I'm trying.
So me and Ray were talking before, and the topic that we settled on today for this episode is love triangles, which is one of those things that's not necessarily just a comics thing. Obviously, it happens in a lot of other mediums, but because comics are serialized, somewhat episodic, like these things have the ability to live out and grow on for years and years, as we'll discuss in just a moment. But before we start, I like to ask every guest two questions.
Okay.
First, what is your favorite comic book couple?
Favorite comic book couple. Jesus, you are killing me. I oh god. Okay, I don't know. I know for sure the two leads in Saga, but I don't know if they're my favorite.
Mm.
Hold on. You got me with
They're
that one.
good though.
Oh god, yeah, very. Um, Favorite couple.
You can choose. You could choose. You don't have to choose one if you want to choose. I know it's hard to
Ah,
choose one.
right. See, I'm such a freaking I don't know, lust for pain. I'm like, what other? How many people have I even liked to stay together? Like, oh
Right.
man. Um, I'd have to default to probably Storm and Logan.
Okay.
I know there was like an alternate timeline or future where they ended up together and they had a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But shit, I do love Gambit and Rogue. Like I
Yeah.
independently, I like them both. I did as a kid have a crush on the both of them. But then now them as a couple, yeah, they would trump Storm and Logan for me. It would be Gambit and Rogue. I
Okay.
think that's my final answer.
Are you reading the new series that they've been putting out?
Yes and no. Yes, I've read the miniseries, the first one,
Okay.
but then now this new series, I haven't. I've come to realize I'm a person who, though I love comics, I have some of them I have to read and trade.
Right.
I'll collect and they'll stack up and I'll look at them, but for me and my lifestyle and everything I'm dealing with, I have to read and trade.
All
So
right.
I'm waiting for the first. I am collecting the issues, but I am waiting for that first trade to like
Got you.
get my teeth in it. Yeah.
All right. So the second question might be as hard as the first question, and that's
Oh
what's,
god.
what's your least favorite comic book couple? What comic couple do you
Uh
just can't stand?
Scott and Jean.
Oof.
And Jean and anyone. Like I just that's my God. And then like as a runner up is probably Charles and Mora. I'm not a fan
Ooh.
of that because it's
Yeah.
like you and her, but then like her and Banshee, but then like then who was that lady he got pregnant from? Like she was in a coma, and that's where
Yeah.
Legion was like. It's like,
Right.
but no, but I'd say Jean and anyone. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't
Charles
think,
got around, man. Like you
yeah,
don't really think about it with him, but he was out here. He was doing
yeah,
some things. Uh,
yes,
all right. Well, so like I was saying before, our topic is comic book love triangles. And even before we get into the specific triangles, I just want to ask for you, whether it's comics, whether it's TV,
hmm
are love triangles something that you enjoy? Is that something that you like? Um,
absolutely, yes. Yes, I love it. Yes, I love the drama. I love it. I like. Yes, yes, I'm a fan.
So is there, I mean, just so outside of comics, is there kind of a love triangle that you
Yes, the one that I will go to my grave loving is Teresa Lopez Fitzgerald, Ethan Crane, and his. It's been so many thirds in that love triangle because in this, for those of you who don't know, because I am ancient now, there was a soap opera called Passions that came out when I was like going into the seventh grade, and it was a more kind of kid friendly, campy ass like
hmm.
um soap opera. It didn't run too long, I think maybe 7 years or so. But there was Teresa Lopez Fitzgerald. She, from the moment she was on screen, that was the most beautiful person on that show. Period. And then Ethan was this like, well, she was like the poor child of the maid who worked in the mansion of the rich white family, and Ethan was the son of the rich white family. And
Ooh.
then he had his girlfriend who was like this debutante that he was kind of matched up with in their childhood. What was her name? Ethan, Teresa, and fuck. That being said, on that show there were so many different, but this woman, okay, as a slight tangent, she went from the beginning, the first appearance, pining after this man,
Hmm.
to ultimately marrying his father, having two kids by him, becoming the like matriarch in
Whoa.
that wealthy family. I was like, man, this is in a matter of like 7 years, which soap opera time is like probably 3 years. So that's my favorite. That right there. That is my favorite love triangle. Like,
It's crazy because like my mom loves soap operas, so
okay.
like she'll be watching. Just, I mean, there's not that many on as there used to
Mm-hmm.
be back in the
Mm-hmm.
day,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, she's on all the, internet forums, like
Yeah.
getting all the hot gossip about all the shows, and like when I go to the gym, like they'll have them on, and so like I'm not
Yeah.
really paying attention, but I'm kind of like, all right, what is this in front of me?
Right.
And like I swear, I don't know what show it is, but they were at a cookout for like
Yeah.
3 weeks.
Yes.
Like they
Yes.
was like
Yes.
I was like, is this
Yes.
one day or is this just cookout just never ends? Or I don't.
It,
But
it's
even just watching it, like not having the audio to it, but just watching the things that are happening,
mm-hmm.
it is so dramatic that I kind of get sucked in. Like I'm just kind of like, whoa, like this
Yeah.
is scandalous. I'm not quite sure what I'm seeing, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah, yeah. Gwen, I just looked it up. That was the lady's
There you go.
name.
All right.
Yeah, but yeah, that's my favorite.
Well, so getting in the comics, there's a bunch, and it is something that, for me personally, I do enjoy a good love triangle.
Hmm.
I feel like sometimes love triangles, like my biggest problem with love triangles is that like the meat of it is great. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like the build up to it and like the heat of it is great. But
Hmm.
then oftentimes I find like the payoff of it just kind of like happens, and then
Hmm.
like you're not like, oh, like basically like one person ends up with the other person, and then the third person is just kind of on the outs.
Hmm.
um and like and then a lot of times like that's it, and like that's the end of it, and then
Hmm.
like it's never revisited or never like talked about again.
Right, right.
um and it's just kind of like, I mean, that was cool, I guess, but like, like it was, I was more into it like in the moment of it. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
like as an afterthought, I'm like, well, did that need to happen? Like that's like now everybody's kind of in a worse place than they were when they started.
Right,
Not
right,
really
right.
like, I wish I could enjoy like the end of this or even be like intrigued by the end of it. But then I'm kind of
Hmm.
like, all right, well, that I guess that happened. And now now we're on to something else.
Lackluster.
So let's just start listing off some of the more famous ones. One of the ones that you've talked about, and speaking of Riverdale, is obviously Archie, Betty, and Veronica, which is like the main one.
Yes.
Um, in all the comics, reaching way back.
Hmm.
Um, which side do you fall on?
Um,
Um,
I fall on the side of Veronica. Just
okay.
period. Just Veronica. No, no Veronica and Archie, or plot twist, Betty and Veronica, just them together. Archie is a waste of space to me. So I think that's a classic. I know that Archie was probably one of the first comics I ever got into just from being at the grocery store and seeing it in the checkout aisle. I never understood it, and not because I guess because with capitalism and consuming so much media, when I read Archie and Betty and Veronica, I'm like, there's so many other, like, you do better with Jughead or with Reggie or with, like, I never saw. Like, why are y'all fighting over this idiot? But I do default to just taking the side of Veronica, and kind of taking a slight tangent. I really default to her on the Riverdale show because she's a woman of color. And I'm just like, and she's wealthy and her family is evil, but then they're like evil and trying to toe this line. So I'm on Veronica's side. I can't.
Now, I 100% agree with you on Archie. Like Archie's not trash. Like, I get it. Like Archie's fine. Like Archie's like, like he's a good dude, you know what I mean? He's got good intentions, like, you know what I mean? But like he messes everything up. Like that's his that's what he does. Like everything is always gonna get fucked up with Archie.
Yes.
So, and Betty and Veronica, like, yeah, they can do better, but it's also like you're saying, like, I just don't like, what is it about Archie in specific that I'm so, like, besides the book is named Archie, so obviously like he's the star of the book, but like you're saying, like there's a bunch of other dudes like in Riverdale, like he's not, he can play guitar, that's cool, but like like, I mean, he's not, they're all in high school, so fine, like, in high school you kind of take what's available, what's around, and you kind of match up. But like, I would like to think later in life, like once they all hopefully leave Riverdale, like Archie's kind of like, they could be friends with Archie, but Archie's not like dream material. Like I never really got
at all. No.
I would probably go. I mean, I know Jughead in the comics is asexual now.
Yes,
but like I would probably go for Jughead over Archie.
Yeah.
Really.
Same, because I even with KJ Appa playing him, which I think, and if your listeners are wondering why I keep bringing up people of color, that's kind of my shtick. I love saying that. But KJ Appa is, if I'm not mistaken, he is Hawaiian, Irish, and something else. But even with him playing Archie being more attractive, it's still hollow. Like, I would still, sad to say, default to Jughead over Archie in the Riverdale show, because I don't see what you're offering me outside of confusion and headache.
Right.
Really, honestly.
No, I'm where we differ is I'm Team Betty.
Okay.
I'm down for Betty. I mean, Betty, like, again, Betty's doing everything right, and you know what I mean? She's just kind of like, her and Archie have always just kind of been like, sweethearts since they were young. So it's kind of like, she's got so much history with Archie.
Okay, yeah.
It's kind of like, she doesn't want to break it off. But again, at the same time, like, she can do, like, both of them can do better. Like, it is what it is. It's one of those things that, it's been around so long, like, it's going to keep going. But I just kind of hope one day both of them, because I want to say there is, like, Archie comics are wild, and there's been so much. I mean, even like recently, where they've just been like, whatever, like everything can happen. So I feel like there's been a Archie comic where Betty and Veronica did get together, and they're like, sorry, Archie, like, this is whatever. So that would be ideal, but outside of that, like, just everybody just kind of move on. Like, I don't know what anybody's getting out of that.
Yeah, unscathed. I don't know. Yeah, but that's interesting. Well, I mean, I see your reason behind Betty, and I think that is smart considering. But I just don't like Archie, and I'm just
and like I don't have anything against Veronica. Like, I like Veronica too, but like if I had to choose between the two of them, I'd probably go with Betty.
Okay, Team Betty, that's cool. That's cool with me.
So the next one, which is almost as old as that one, would be thinking about Superman, Clark Kent, and then his Smallville sweetheart, which is Lana Lang,
Mm-hmm.
and then his Metropolis sweetheart,
Mm.
which is Lois Lane.
Yes.
And it's weird because we talked about this on the show before, but like those old Superman, Lois Lane, Superman's girlfriend comics
Mm-hmm.
are insane. You know what I mean? Like,
Very.
have you read any of them before?
See, I've looked at a few in my younger years, but being older, I've listened to a ton of podcasts that were
Yeah,
specifically about Superman, and just hearing the wild shit like how Lois went to Krypton years ago, dated Superman's dad, almost split up his relationship, was stuck in a time machine, couldn't it, like one where she was a black woman. It was just
yeah.
that was wild.
It,
Yes.
so those like the way those books usually played out, specifically when Lana Lang was involved, was like Lois and Lana would be like plotting against each other
Mm-hmm.
to like get Clark, and it's one of those like we'll talk about Mary Jane, Peter Parker, and Black Cat,
Mm-hmm.
Felicia Hardy, but it's a similar situation where Lana Lang loves Clark, Lois Lane loves Superman,
Yes.
and Clark Kent is like, why not both? Like, why I get with both of them?
Right,
And
right.
it's it is an interesting thing just because it's in one way it's a realistic thing, right? Where you've got Lana and Clark, and they grew up together, and they were kind of sweethearts together, and then they kind of college came, and they kind of went their separate ways, and
Mm-hmm.
like it wasn't like a bad breakup, like they didn't like scream and fight and like
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff, but you have these periods in your life where this person meant a lot to you, and it's not like they don't mean anything to you anymore, but like you just kind of grew apart naturally as your lives went on their course, and then now he's got Lois, but like
Mm-hmm.
whenever Lana comes to town, it's kind of like that thing where you know okay, you're cool now, but like your significant other's ex is in town, and like that was like a serious thing. So
Mm-hmm.
like if you're Lois, you're kind of like, do I need to keep an eye on this person? Like, is this
Yes.
something I should be worried about?
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts about that kind of triangle?
Yeah, I think it's in I hopefully I'm not making a reach, but it's almost like the extreme version of an Archie, Betty, and Veronica
Kind of.
combination. Because you do have that down home old school friend from back in the day, and you have your current in the now. And there's nostalgia will probably always make things that were small feel so big.
Right.
I think Lois has had a history of poor decisions when it comes to Superman, Clark, and how just the way in which she's been written for so long. But I
Yeah.
think that there is something there that even if they are just platonic friends, this isn't just some guy named Clark I fell in love with who I work with. This is somebody who is Superman.
Right.
She shares this secret that she has a part of you that will always be there. And to sound very reality TV of it all, it's like having a baby mama. Because
Right.
now this is something, the world does not know that Clark is Superman. I,
Right.
Lois Lane, know, and Lana Lang knows. And it's like, that's something special,
Right.
So it's a, you're in this like sisterhood situation now. So I get the apprehension or the caution on Lois's part,
Right.
because it's not regular Clark who I date, who I work with. This is Superman,
Right.
so it's it's amplified. So I think it's warranted to be, because even if they don't want a sexual or romantic thing, this other woman now has a part of your man, husband, boyfriend, whatever, that she can never get rid of. Like,
Hmm.
unless she goes into a coma, the universe gets reset and wiped out. She can never, even if they are not romantically linked, can never
Right.
get rid of this piece that you also have and that you got second to her. So,
Right. Right. Yeah.
it's deep.
Yeah.
It's deep.
I mean, Lois, again, Lois has in modern times, I mean, again, right.
Mm.
Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, was was wild. He was trying to kill Lana left and right. Like it was
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
craziness. But in recent years, I think they've done a good job of because Lana's moved on.
Mm-hmm.
In recent years. I mean, I think she was with Jimmy Olsen for a little bit, but I think
Mm-hmm.
she's also
Mm-hmm.
just kind of been, moving in her own direction.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been Lois and Lana have kind of, they've they've made it work, recently where
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of more of a collaborative unit, they're on the
Mm-hmm.
same page, and they're both there for Clark.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's always kind of weird for me, like when it's a man in the center of these two women,
Mm-hmm.
because usually what they do is like then they gotta fight.
Right.
And then,
Right.
then they gotta and the dude is usually like, ooh, like who wants it more, like they're both just kind of going back, and he's like, this I like this,
Right.
it's
Right.
like, this is, I mean, obviously, like love triangles again can be very unhealthy things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Specifically when I don't know which is worse. Like I don't know which is worse between being in the situation where, these three people have similar feelings for each other,
Mm-hmm.
or where kind of like like, and we can transition into this one next, because it's another big one, and it's an
Mm-hmm.
X-Men one. It's Wolverine, Jean Grey, and Cyclops,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, there's been times where I felt like Wolverine and Jean Grey, it's kind of an unrequited love
Mm-hmm.
situation where Jean, like, she likes Logan, what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's cool, but she's not like, it's not the same intensity
Yeah.
of like between them and what she feels for Scott. So you kind of got this guy on the outside who's trying to sabotage this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And these two people who are kind of like, Jean, and then Jean's kind of stuck in the middle. And now these two
Mm-hmm.
dudes are fighting over her. And she's just like, you both are kind of trash. Like, if I want either of you, if this keeps going on. So,
Right. Right.
before we move on, for you in your mind, what team are you on? Are you team Lana or team Lois?
I have to go with Lois. I know more about her. Lana is a great girl, but maybe it's just that whole small frame white woman with dark long hair. Like because Veronica and Lois, I'm sorry, I got to go with her. But it is probably just by nature of me having more experience or more history with Lois. Terry Hatcher, I fell in love with her on the New Adventures of Lois and Clark.
Yep.
She has always been my default Lois Lane, even when I read her in the comics. So yeah, I follow her through the Desperate Housewives. So I know that's probably a big reason why I'm Team Lois. It has to be Team Lois.
Now, I'm just trying to recall it. It has to have happened in those Superman's girlfriend books.
Mm.
But like, if Lana has ever gone single white female on Lois, where, like,
I
tried to like take her out the picture and just kind of move in and hope Clark wouldn't notice the difference between them.
oh my god! You know, with his big, dumb but extremely powerful, he probably would be with it for a while before really. I don't know. I wonder if that is. I would hope so. I would
Yeah,
hope so.
I could imagine that happening. I mean, with everything I know that has happened in those
uh,
books, like why not? Like they at least have to have switched bodies at
or
some point.
right. Well, you know, they both were. If I'm not mistaken, at the beginning of the Super Women run, weren't they both Super
Right.
Woman?
Yeah, they were kind of like Lois, like Lois's ghost almost was kind of like stuck in her head, and like Lana
Mm-hmm.
was Superwoman. Um,
So
yeah,
Rogue.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That would be a good like Elseworld story to
yeah,
do kind of a flashback of them, like a horror comic of her
yeah.
getting rid of Lois and just stepping into her like, oh my god, that would be dope.
I could see that. So yeah, so let's move on. Let's move on to X, because X-Men is drama central, uh,
Always.
with everything going on. But that one, there's two Cyclops. There's
Yeah.
three Cyclops relationships actually. Now that I think about it,
Mm-hmm.
three, and it's. I mean, again, Cyclops is pretty basic. And it's crazy to me. Like on the one hand, like I get it, you know what I mean? He's the team leader, and I don't know how much of a personality he has, but he is kind of like the strong leader type kind of. So I could see why, like women would be after. Like he's not, and he's. I'm assuming he's attractive the way that they draw him in the books. Like he's kind of he's not quite James Dean, but he's got kind of that look to him. But let's move our way through, I guess, basically chronologically through these Cyclops love triangles. So the first one is him, Logan, and Jean, which I really don't know whose side. I mean, I guess I default to Jean's side only because she's got two not great choices going on there. My problem always, and I guess I'll say this probably on every episode with the Jean Logan relationship is that Logan, like, to me it feels almost like the equivalent of like the girl who does something nice for a dude at school just because she's a nice person, you know what I mean? Not because like she's trying to get anything out of him. She offers like, oh, you're having trouble with Spanish, like I'll help tutor you, because I'm part of the Spanish club. I like speaking Spanish, and like this dude is like, she loves me, you know what I mean? And like so like Jean brought Logan came to the X-Men. Jean kind of helped him get his memories back together, and kind of help transition him from the life he was living to this X-Men lifestyle. But he took it way further than when it was meant to be. Not only because like it's like I think everybody probably has experienced being attracted to or having feelings for somebody who is in a committed relationship. Kind of this thing where like you can't, they're not available,
right.
Maybe they'll be available later, but like right now, and like and it's not really a situation where to try and to meddle in these other people's relationship, like very, very easily could jeopardize whatever. Like, I mean, if you shoot your shot and it's like completely rejected, like you're not even friends anymore. Like that's
right.
Everything's over, but Logan, from obviously, in the Claremont comics, but then even, the 90s X-Men cartoon and, the movies, like he's always kind of in. There's that meme where, he's laying in the bed with the picture of Jean, kind of like, it's weird. So like, while I don't have anything against Jean Grey personally. Like Jean Grey and Cyclops, I think go together well because to me they're basically the same person.
Yeah, I can say that. Yes.
So like that works. Like to me, they're the boring couple that like they go to the country on the weekends and they come back and tell you about the antique shop they stopped in.
Yes.
And, like, it's like it's fine. Like I think they work together, but like I don't know who do you come out on a certain side in that triangle?
The side of the Dark Phoenix, because I'm tired of all of them. Like I can't. Like Logan is a creep. Like I love me some Logan, but you're like 1,000 years older than these people, so it's like they're children for one. Two, like you said, you have this Nightingale syndrome where I helped you and now you've imprinted on me or something.
Right.
Like this is Twilight. Like it's too much. And I feel like Logan is too grown, and that sounds so kind of cliche. But you've been in world wars, you've fought alongside Steve Rogers, you've had your love, you've been like all over the place. And Jean is probably a safe feeling for him, but you can't tell me that there's not someone else you could give that love to. Like, do you even know how, like if Scott was completely gone? How would you? Oh God, it's so weird. It's so weird.
Well, because even like him and Storm, was fine. Like you, I mean, that's one of
Mm-hmm.
your favorite couples, and like they worked together. Like I don't have
Mm-hmm.
any problem with that. You know, that kind of came out in a natural way.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, he's had other. I mean, obviously, you know, he's had kids. You know, so he's
Yeah.
had other relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always just, you know, like again, like Jean dies and comes back and dies and comes back, and like every time she comes back, you know, I think I don't know if it was it in the latest when Bendis brought the original five back? Like,
Mm-hmm. Oh, that.
wasn't Kitty Pryde kind of like, hey, don't?
Yeah, that was creepy. That meeting, what was it? X-Men. What was the Storm-led team from a couple years back when the original Gene was back, and then Old Man Logan came back, and
Oh
like they met up and
yeah,
talked. And though it wasn't a
yeah,
sexual, just the history of them seeing this 16-year-old Jean Grey, and then this like 500-year-old Logan talk. It was just like, ugh. And it wasn't, I have to emphasize, there was nothing sexual or romantic, but just knowing their history.
yeah.
Because he like sniffed her and was like, "You're not her, are you?"
Ooh,
And she was like, "You're not." It was some was I just don't like
yeah,
that, to
that's
be
not good.
honest, at all. But I really think that this Logan thing is a sign of having different creators on books and then picking and choosing what you want to stick. And this
Right.
is one of those things that just stick for whatever reason, even like you said, carrying over into the animated series where people like me was like our first introduction to X-Men or
Hmm.
first that we consistently watched because I had comics, but seeing them on screen was like, okay, wow, this is, people I read about. So
Right.
it's it shaped how a lot of us view these characters, and I feel like they could have went with a different. Like I like queer James Howlett, him and Hercules. I like him.
Yeah.
That makes more sense because not to get too X-rated, but for all of the physical things that go along with love and romance, you fucking with a god, they can take all that. You're doing this not to say Jean is weak, but it's like why one she's already attached, and two leave her the hell alone.
Right. Yeah. It's just, I mean, again, not to get too X-rated as well, but like just thinking about Wolverine being intimate, just like, you know, I mean, just you've seen him like just wild out and just go into
Yes,
feral mode. Like,
yes,
I don't want to think about, yeah, it's a lot. There's probably a lot happening.
yeah,
Um, all right, so that's the first one, and I think we both came out on Team Gene on that one.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so the next one that uh Cyclops was in, it might be the most typically Cyclops thing ever, where after the Dark Phoenix saga, Jean is dead.
Yes.
But then there's a he finds a clone of his wife. He finds Madeline Pryor. So he shacks up in Alaska with the clone of his dead wife, continues this relationship, has a child
Oh God.
with this clone.
Yes.
Then Gene comes back and he's like, "Oh, bye," and
What?
leaves the clone of his dead, now resurrected ex alone in Alaska while he goes back to the X mansion and just picks up with Jean like nothing ever happened, and now he's in a love triangle with the same woman.
Oh my God. Yes.
trying to have both though. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to like still have this relationship with Madeline Pryor and also with Jean. And it's just
Yeah.
like, wow, dude, like that's, I mean, you know, like Logan's pretty creepy, but that's also very creepy
Yeah. Very.
and not healthy. And like, you know, obviously now you've turned your ex into a supervillain.
That part. That part. Yes. Yes.
So, you know, it's I nobody wins. I think that's a loss. Everybody takes the L in
Plus
that
the
one.
baby.
I can't really, you know, maybe I mean, I guess I have to be on Madeline's side only in the sense
Yes.
that she was done wrong. Jean
Yeah.
didn't really have anything to do with it, but also like, you know, Jean can get kind of Becky sometimes, and she was kind of like, you know, I mean, she was confused, but I think she was just like, you know, I'll fight you if I have to, and then
Mm-hmm.
it got really weird. It was really weird.
Yeah, yeah, very. It's because then she take the baby like once Madeline went turned Goblin Queen and
Yep.
like, yeah, like wait, that is Cable, right? Or is
Yep.
that okay? Yeah, like I, again in okay, I'm gonna say this: people talk trash against reality TV, Love and Hip Hop, Desperate Housewives, but you can and this is follow me down this road.
Okay.
This is a lot that people say, oh, black people, this is what y'all watch about, whatever. The Kardashians are the same for white folks, I believe. And
Yep.
this whole setup, taking the superpowers out of it, let's just say this is a girl that looks a lot like Jean. It's the same thing. Scott then been with this woman. The woman is gone. You get a baby by this next woman. You leave your baby mama for your old girl. The old girl is concerned, but then it's like, oh, I don't know, fuck that. The girl, let's say instead of becomes a villain, she does something to go to jail. Let's say that now you're taking over raising her baby. It's such a convoluted mess of. The only thing saving Scott for me is that Mr. Sinister is the creepiest of all.
Right.
And for all the things that he did to Scott, but I feel like you should be well adjusted enough to know right from wrong.
Right.
He will never be the victor in that situation. I myself have to default to Madeline only because she had the baby.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that baby, I'd be like, maybe Jean, but yeah, Madeline. I'm on Madeline's team for that one, because it's like even her becoming the Goblin Queen. I'm like, yeah, this is a natural progression.
Yeah, I
like
would. I mean, who wouldn't?
She's the most innocent aside from the baby in that situation.
Right. So that's two love triangles for Scott. That's two L's for Scott.
Yes.
And then the last one is the one that's still somewhat kind of occurring with Scott, Emma Frost, and Jean. And again, you got Scott, Scott, for whatever, he's trying to be his own man. He's stepping out. He's having this affair with Emma, but then he's like, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say that Emma Frost is like the Erykah Badu of the X-Men universe.
Yes.
Because
yes, you damn right.
Because she's turning out Scott, and Scott's out here strutting around the X Mansion like he's a whole new man. You know what I mean? Like he's puffing his chest out. You know what I mean? And it's and again, Jean is just like, get the fuck out of here. Look at it. Like, you ain't shit, really. I don't know why you're trying to act like, it's good. I mean, again, like Scott's whole thing where because there's that page where they're together, and like Emma Frost is like, I think she's like projecting Jean in his mind. You know what I mean? So he thinks he's with Jean, but he's with Emma, and then Jean walks in, and it's just like, this is the whole Madeline Pryor. You're doing it again, dude. Like you just he can't win, but it's his own fault.
Yeah.
And like, in that situation, like I think I sided with everybody but Scott. Like with Emma, like Emma's always been the one, like Emma Mystique. Like both of them, like they do them, you know what I mean? So like they're like Mystique is almost like she's more like the Rihanna of the Marvel universe, where like accurate. She's just gonna do her, and like you can come into her orbit, but when she's done with you, like she's moving on. You know what I mean? So like and Emma's the one that's kind of like, I just, for me, it's just weird because I don't know what she saw in Scott, because like it's not like she loves him. You know what I mean? Like that the way that it's written, it's very clear that she has feelings for him. This isn't an evil plot. She's not trying to get at Jean through Scott. She's not trying to do anything weird like that. Like she
Mm-hmm.
has feelings, she developed feelings for Scott.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Scott is like Archie, where I'm just kind of like, well, both of you could do better. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about Cyclops that like has both of you willing to like throw psychic hands over him. Like, it's not
Yeah.
really that deep. Where I'm kind of like, again, like for Jean, yes, Jean, they've been together through thick and thin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They do a lot of shit. So like she's from her perspective, like she put in too much work. Like if anybody's,
Yes.
it's gonna be her. So
Yes.
like he's
Yes.
not gonna be the one that's gonna step out and do all the stuff to her. Like if anybody's in this relationship, it's Jean.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like I just like for me, Emma, I don't know who I would put Emma with, but like she is like she doesn't need Cyclops. You know what I mean?
Right.
Again, like
Right.
love Cyclops and I can accept that, but I just don't know, from the perspective of this whole, triangle thing, like
Mm-hmm.
what's in it for her? Because again, like Cyclops he's kind of lame, like like
Yeah.
and again, she's the White Queen. I mean, she was with the Hellfire Club, like she was like coming from this life of like basically could do whatever she wanted to do.
Yeah.
And she's, and again, during this new X-Men run, like she's rehabilitating herself, if you want to call it that. She's made the decision to be with the X-Men and follow Xavier and all of this stuff. But like even within the X-Men, like there's gotta be like Nightcrawler is always my bachelor option for anybody, because Nightcrawler is like Nightcrawler is like one of the, like there's a lot of weird scummy dudes on X-Men, but Nightcrawler is like Nightcrawler's he's pretty great. Like I would say he's if you can get past, he might be too religious for some people. But if you're down with that, like he's
that's
pretty
the choice.
chill,
Yeah.
I mean, so for you, is there a winner in the Scott, Emma, Jean?
I would honestly have to go with Emma, because I watched her through Generation X and kind of know what she's dealing with personally, and then because she has like a brother that's in, I think, an insane asylum, and then her two sisters are evil too.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point, it wasn't until you said, she's trying to rehabilitate herself, that kind of made sense. That what is the ultimate position of like power and opulence, and like thinking of like entertainment industry. If you think of any couple, it's always Jay-Z and Beyonce somewhere on that list, maybe the top.
Yeah.
And dare I say that Jean and Scott would be that status-wise Jay-Z and Beyonce. So if I'm Emma Frost and I've turned over a new leaf and I want to be seen as a serious do-gooder, however corrupt this may be, if I can sit on the throne with Scott as the new Jean of sorts, or it feel that space, then it seems so ass backwards, but I see some kind of, I'm tied to this person who's nothing but good.
Right.
He makes poor personal decisions, but in the history of the X-Men, he's been the leader, he's been the go-to guy, he's always been included in a level A or A class or whatever. Like, he's been the creme de la creme of X-Men. Right. So if I was to align myself with him, even though it's gonna fuck up a lot of people, they're gonna hate me, but I'm still attached to this person who is the helm of what it is to be a good X-Man. I think it's poor on his part, because I don't think, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, someone, I don't think she ever psychically manipulated him. She just carried on an affair with him. Yeah. So he chose, the other reason I default to her is because this man is an adult who has been dating one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful telepaths in the Marvel universe. You can withstand an attack from someone psychically. You have that. So no, I'd have to go with Emma, just by some twisted way of her trying to, at least in my interpretation, prove how good she is. Now, I'm not excusing her behavior, because that shit is wrong. Yeah. But I feel like that makes more sense. Like, and I wish Jean would have just left him. You dealing with all this shit. Leave that mother. Leave him.
Now,
so Emma for me.
Here's something I just thought about. We talked about this on the show before, but I'll share it with you just in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like, when you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
Avengers and X-Men, Avengers when they have the mansion and when they have Stark Tower, although it's not as big. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is a situation in which you are ostensibly right,
Mm-hmm.
working with these people
Mm-hmm.
and then living with these people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you know what I mean? Like they're your coworkers, you're on a team with them, and
Yeah.
then you go home and then they're also there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How bold do you have to be if you're Cyclops to not only cheat on your psychic girlfriend, right? Who can read your mind? Like Jean is respectful, she doesn't read people's minds. Who she's not invading his privacy,
Right. Right.
but you're cheating on your psychic girlfriend with basically the girl down the hall, like Emma. They all live together in the same house, so you know what I mean. Like you're like, and then again, like Emma ostensibly, if you make the correlation, like she's sleeping with, I don't know if Cyclops would be considered her boss, right? But in the
Mm-hmm.
hierarchy of the
Yeah.
X-Men, you know what I mean? Like, like he's the number one, he's the leader of the
Yeah.
team.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're saying, like she's going from, Hellfire Club and all that stuff, where and now she's on the X-Men, and like I don't. Scott isn't the Sebastian Shaw of the X-Men, but I mean
Right.
he is the leader of the team. So she's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I'm gonna stake my claim. Like this is, I like Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
go for mine. You know what I mean? And it's also, I mean, it's not it's let's not bury the fact that Emma doesn't really like Jean.
At all. At all.
And so, while again, it's not necessarily her trying to get at Jean through Scott,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't hurt
Right.
that
Happy side effect.
there's that connection. Well, let's wrap up the X-Men. You have a love triangle of X-Men that you are wanted to talk about that I don't really know that much about. So I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna throw it to you in terms of this Generation X
Yes. Oh God.
triangle.
Yeah. Generation X. Everyone has their X Men book. In my formative years, it was Generation X. There is a love triangle which is so subtle. It ramps up towards closer to the end of the Generation X run, the first volume, and it's Monet St. Croix, Everett Thomas, and Jubilation Lee. And that, for me, on a team of high school age kids learning to use their powers in this like secluded Westchester mansion, and having the triangle be between these three people of color, that did it for me in a way
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't know it did. Um, Monet is this rich Moroccan. I am going to get this so wrong because though she is one of my favorite characters, I never know what what is her uh racial background. Like, is she?
Yeah.
Because I know it's been said that she's Arabic, and I've been very unhappy with the way they've been coloring her as of
Mm-hmm.
late. Because she looks like Psylocke. If you don't
Right.
pay attention, if they're in regular clothes, she doesn't look like.
Yeah.
In Generation X, she was a little brown girl with
Mm-hmm.
long hair. So I thought maybe she was a bit Spanish, or like I didn't, but I knew that she was a woman of color.
Right.
Jubilee, who is a fan favorite of mine. A lot of people don't like her, but she was my introduction character into the animated series. And Everett Thomas, a black boy who was like, for me back in the 90s, was like carefree black boy joy. Like that was just, he was always the happiest kid. He was always trying to find the good in the situation, which might speak to a larger narrative of like black people being portrayed in comics in only one of two ways. But I won't go down that route. But seeing them together, um, and then realizing that there was this kind of brotherly sisterly thing between Everett and Jubilee, but then I think she wanted more from him, but she was like a tomboy, whereas Monet was always this arrogant, wealthy, most powerful team member.
Right.
My God, growing up reading this book, I have to imagine if anyone read the Claremont era X-Men, any era of X-Men, and got just a slight satisfaction that I got from reading these characters, I understand why X-Men and these stories are so great and so
Mm-hmm.
loved. And the love triangle that we had between the three of them, like I said, throughout most of the run was very subtle because Monet was, spoiler alert, made up of her two twin sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And when all that came out, she was more aggressive with wanting to feel alive. So she went to get a tattoo because she couldn't touch people for years. She wanted to push up on Everett. She wanted to be romantically with them. I don't know if it was intimate because we were kids, so I don't know
Right.
if they went that far. But then there was this hate between her and Jubilee in a way that it was kind of a Scott, Jean, and Emma thing where, yeah, I want this guy and I don't like this girl, but I want him, and me wanting him, the side effect is now you hate me more because I got the man that you want.
Right.
It and I don't want it to fall, I guess, to the wayside that Monet ended up being the White Queen for a time. So there's something there, and it's like the most arrogant, snobbish, stuck up, and have the powers to back it up character in this whole book, pissing off the White Queen because Emma Frost was her head mistress for the run of Generation X, and I just I wanted to see them together. I was so devastated when Generation X stopped when they stopped that original run, um, because of the way it ended, because of who was murdered,
Mm-hmm.
and because a lot of stuff fell flat. But I would have loved to have seen that love triangle kind of move forward as the most significant Scott, Jean, Logan, Scott, Jean, Emma, Scott, Jean, whoever,
Right.
type of romance, because to see it through an Asian woman, a black man, and whatever the hell Monet is, Amari, I don't know what she is,
Yeah.
but just to see that, and one thing that really disappoints me, if I can kind of take it aside, is that triangle, if it was written now with the way that people are being more progressive and more intentional with their writing, with comics and creators, bringing in creators of color and having people who represent these characters write these stories, I think that would be a very kind of heavy, satisfying story. You have Everett, who is this middle class black man from St. Louis who his family, his I think his mom was a doctor, his dad was a mailman, something like that. He
Mm-hmm.
had adopted brothers and sisters. Jubilee, who was raised wealthy, but then her parents died and she ended up homeless and stealing from the mall. And then Monet, who has been wealthy her entire life. Her family, her father was a diplomat. She had this, her brother turned evil. He's like the arch nemesis. It's just to write that story now, which Marvel, if you can hear this, let me write it. I
Yeah.
got you. But to write a story like that now, just imagine an Asian woman writing that, a
Mm-hmm.
black man drawing it, and then this woman of whatever background Monet is editing and that would be a dope ass
It would.
fucking book. But oh my god! But Marvel, settle for me if you can't find all
Yeah.
of it. I
No.
will definitely write
We'll
it
pull some
for you,
strings. We'll make some calls.
man. Look, because I would just give me a mini series, give me 6 issues, and I'm good. So I'm gonna stop fanning out now. But that was one of my if we could have saw that on the big screen, yeah, that's
I need to get into some more Generation X. Sounds like I need
man,
to catch up on that run.
yes. Oh my god, I love it. I love it.
Well, let's close out with there's I think there's three remaining love triangles. There's a bunch of love triangles that are still out there.
Yeah.
Three that I think are obviously the big ones that people think about. There is Mr. Fantastic, uh Sue, and Namor. Um
Yes.
there is there's Mary Jane, Peter Parker, and Felicia Hardy, aka the Black Cat.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I feel like I'm blanking on one. I feel like there was one more big one. I don't know if people would count Talia, Bruce, and Selena, just because
Hmm.
Bruce and Selena been kind of on and off forever, and
Hmm.
then and then Talia steps in and they have a kid, and then I don't know. I mean, they kind of dealt. We could talk about that because they kind of dealt. You know, when the whole marriage thing was ramping up. I mean, he did go all the way over there to kind of squash that. So I think there's something to that. But let's start with Namor, Sue, and Reed.
Yeah.
You know, again, like the more I do this show, the more I just like none of these. I can't get behind any of these dudes. You know what I mean? Like I think about it for a second, and I'm like, but no, like this, like you don't. As I mean, again, and we're not even gonna get into the realm of like whether you deserve somebody or not, but like
Right.
your actions are not that of somebody who is capable of being in a stable relationship. Like the way that you're acting is not
Yes.
is
Right.
not how grown people need to act. So you know, so you got Reed Richards, you know, by all accounts, smartest man in the world. Although now, Lunella Moon Girl is
Yes.
officially the
Yes.
smartest character in the Marvel
Yes.
universe. So Reed probably is he took a step down.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, super scientist. You know, and we've talked about this again before on the show, but I
Mm-hmm.
can't say it enough times. I don't know how this dude convinced the girl that he was dating that it was a good idea to get on a spaceship, go
Look.
go to space to look at some radiation and like
Yes.
and then like was that a date? Like how did you convince her to do that? Like that sounds bad all the way around. Like if I was her, I'd be like,
Yes.
I'll catch you when you get back. Tell me about it when
Yeah.
you're back on Earth. But so him and Sue obviously have been together for a long time. But there's always been the third wheel in that relationship, which is Namor, who
Yeah.
is like worse than Wolverine because like he's
Yes.
really thirsting big time and is out here basically, you know what I mean? Because Wolverine will like sometimes like try to big up Scott, you know what I mean? Like he'll
Mm-hmm.
try to big
Mm-hmm.
time him and you know, like prove that he's more worthy of Jean's love and all that stuff. Namor will just
Mm-hmm.
come out straight to Reed's face and be like, "You don't deserve this. I'm better
Yes.
than
Yes.
you." Like while
Yes.
Sue is there in the room. You know what I mean? Like this isn't
Yeah.
a private conversation they're having in front of his wife. He will go up to him and say, "No,
Yes.
like I deserve to be with your wife. You should go somewhere else."
Yeah.
And like I will assume I don't even, because the thing about it is like I don't know if Namor has really thought all the way through and that like does he
Couldn't
really
have.
want to raise Franklin and Valeria?
Ooh.
Like does he want to
Ooh.
be their dad? Or does he just think that Stu is gonna run away with him to Atlantis and they're gonna do whatever? You know what I mean? Like I don't know how he's imagining this going on in his head.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, obviously, there's only one winner in this, and that's Sue. I
Mm-hmm.
side with Sue because both of them, you know, Reed is in the lab all the time, forgetting all like their anniversary and her birthday and like
Yeah.
everything else. And then he'll come out and he'll be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Let me take you to another dimension and make it up to you or whatever." And you know, she's kind of like, again, they've been together for so long that you know it's not even like what would I do if I left Reed, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, like I think she's kind of just this is her life. Like she's kind of made peace with you know what's going on, whether or not it's the best thing for her. Like obviously now with kids, you know, she's kind of gotta do this. But I think I spoke about this on another podcast too. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but because they were in that accident together, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that happened when they were like she was in college.
Yeah.
Like they were both in college. So
Mm-hmm.
like she kind of got put in the situation where she's with this dude.
Mm-hmm.
She can't
Mm-hmm.
really leave this dude. Like this dude, like
Yeah.
for a long time, this was the dude that if there was anybody that could reverse this, it
Mm-hmm.
was Reed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, again, I don't think this was Reed's plan to like, you know, get Sue with him for life is to get her in an interstellar accident and like whatever.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like it's convenient for Reed where it's kind of like, well, where are you gonna go? You know, like you kind of
Yeah.
he never said that to her, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like, you know, he's kind of got that in his pocket where, you know, when she thinks about it, it's like, yeah, you know, I'm with Reed. But you know, even for her, like if she went to go, because it's Namor is kind of like Namor is like real life thirst trap, I guess. Like he's the
Is.
dude who's kind of like, hey, you know, why don't you? If you came with this, you know, I've got an undersea kingdom and like all these abs and wings on my feet and like all this other stuff and like, uh, you know. But I neither like he and Reed are just kind of like I can't get with either of them. Do you? Where do you
Yeah.
side?
Doctor Doom. No. No. I think Namor is trash. He like you said, even worse than Logan. Like there was, I think, a storyline where he bought the rights to a movie in like some kind of way, made a movie about Sue Storm, and it was like in the earlier days.
Whoa.
Yeah, like he was really, and I like. He gives me like, what's that cartoon Pepe Le Pew? He gives me that like I, he, but then I don't know. Like I'm not a fan of his in that sense. Um, Neither of them deserve her, and like you said, taking off the table like the topic of deserving another human, but
Right.
neither of them deserve her. Like, be, okay, taking a step back, like you said, she's trapped with this guy. We were in this cosmic whatever, and now even if I was to leave you, again, I'm tied to you forever. We are the Fantastic Four. There's nothing.
Right.
I can't go anywhere and let one person find out who I am, and it's over.
Right.
What man is going to want to date me knowing that, or not knowing, you know, everybody got an ex, but is your ex in prison and getting out soon, or is your ex some, you know, guy who we're both the same height, same weight? No, this man can like double his body, and like, so it's just, I'm on the side of, and this is kind of my cop out. I did a episode on an alternate timeline, Sue Storm, where when the whatever crashed, she fell in love with Namor, but he was a black man.
Okay.
And they had a full family, like 3 girls, 2 boys, and they lived like in Atlantis, way over wherever. I mean, it ended up ending horribly. But that being said, that's the only person.
So wait, was it?
Huh?
It was Black Atlantis?
No, it was Atlanteans who were black people, African American, as well as blue skinned Atlanteans.
Okay.
And she had a baby with it's a timeline that hasn't been kind of fleshed out as much, but there's enough there that I hopped on it.
Yeah.
But of course, in this situation, I'd have to go with Sue because she's a victim in all of this. Like, where do I go now? I'm stuck with this man. Not only am I a Fantastic Four, now I have his kids, or I had his kids rather. And then Namor, even if you were going to woo her, you're doing it in the most disrespectful way possible. Like, it's not even, well, you know, he's doing you wrong. Let me take you out for your anniversary or whatever. Right. Like, you're just like, you suck, and you should be. So no, I'd have to side with Sue and by extension Valeria and Franklin, because they are the innocence in all this.
Right. Dude, now I'm just like, now that you said all that, I'm just imagining like a dude on a date with Sue, like post, like she broke up with Reed.
Yeah.
But then like Reed is there, like pretending to be a chair or some shit. Yes. But then also like Namor just rolls up in the in the restaurant and like is slapping your meal off the table. And it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like not only do you have to deal with this weird dude, you know, pretending to be furniture, but then like you got this muscle bound, you know, sea dude rolling up, just like, you know, slapping you around, just like, you know, nobody's got time for that. Like, you know, like she can't. All right, so Sue wins that. The next one is Peter Parker, Mary Jane, Felicia. And again, this is one of those situations where it's like, you know, again, it's an interesting one, you know, because it's Felicia Hardy does not know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and she
Right,
doesn't give a shit about Peter Parker. She likes Spider-Man. Mary
Yeah.
Jane loves Peter Parker, knows that he's Spider-Man, but I mean, she's not with him because of that. Um,
Right.
Peter Parker is out here. Like Peter Parker is again, like just you're talking about all these dudes. Peter's not trash.
No.
Peter has Cyclops syndrome though, in the sense that he makes very poor decisions when it comes to his love life, which is part of why everybody loves him and why everybody keeps reading his stories. It's part of his personality, but like again, in this situation, it's kind like he wasn't asking for it. Like he wasn't like swooping around with Black Cat. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like
Right.
she kind of came out of nowhere, and at first she was a criminal, so he was trying to stop her. But
Yeah.
but I mean, again, it's kind of Marvel's Batman Catwoman situation where this woman is kind of she's on the outside of the law. Like sometimes she's doing good stuff, most of the time she's just doing whatever she wants to do, and this attraction between somebody on one side of the law and somebody on the other side of the law. But Peter slipped up though, and did some things he probably shouldn't have done, and got himself in a weird situation where now he's trying to play the Spider-Man role, in one circle, and the Peter Parker role in another circle, and like, I mean, I'm probably Team Mary Jane.
Oh, me too.
I mean, again, when I talk to people on the show before about Peter Parker, Mary Jane, like when you think about the times that they haven't been together, right? Mary Jane has never lacked. Mary Jane is constantly moving up. Like they broke up, they did whatever they did. Cool. Mary Jane is going out with astronauts. Mary Jane is going out with politicians. She's a model. She's an actress. She's on Broadway. She's doing all this stuff. Peter Parker is broke. Peter Parker can't get a job, can't hold a job, doing all this stuff. And it's like at some point you kind of have to step your shit up and like get on Mary Jane's level. Like you can't constantly just roll up and be like, hey, been a while. I'm still Spider-Man. Wanna, swing on a rooftop or something, what I mean? It's like, she's doing stuff, so like, like I'm not, obviously Felicia doesn't know what's going on. Like she doesn't know who Spider-Man is, like who he really is. So I mean, if she's not going around like if she knew that Spider-Man was in a relationship, I really don't know what she would do. But because like obviously he can't be like, yo, I'm married or I have a girlfriend or whatever. She's just, if you're not gonna say anything, like she's just gonna keep doing what she's doing.
Right.
Really has no reason to stop. So but you're on team MJ?
Yeah, I am. And not for anything against Felicia, because like you said, she doesn't know. I think at one point she found out he was a kid and was like, whatever. But up until that point, and even after, it's like she doesn't know who you are. And like you said, she wants Spider-Man. She doesn't care who's underneath the mask.
Yeah.
And even her, she has her own thing going on. Like much like with Mary Jane, it's like even if Gwen Stacy hadn't have died, she probably would have done the same thing because she was a nerd too, right? Like into science. I feel like everyone around Peter is advancing but him. And not that he's dead weight, but it's like you were fun for a time, but so I'd have to go with Mary Jane as well, just because like she is one of my favorite humans in the Marvel universe, and I hope she remains a human. I know there was what was it, To Death Do Us Part, where wasn't she a Spider-Man? That's fine. That's in like alternate timeline, cool. But in the main continuity, she's a human and she's doing stuff, and I like that. I like that. And her breakup with Peter didn't distraught her to the point where I can't live anymore. Like,
right.
So yeah, I'm Team Mary Jane as well.
All right, so let's wrap on this one. Again, there's plenty of them. Just even as I'm sitting here thinking, the Wonder Man Scarlet Witch Vision
Vision, yeah.
triangle. It's a weird one because Vision is Wonder Man, and yeah, so
and
it,
his,
there's a lot of stuff. But so Bruce Wayne, Selena Kyle, Talia al Ghul. You know, again, like Bruce and Selena have kind of had this will they won't they thing going on for a long time. And you know, I don't know. Like I don't know if let's just we won't talk about the wedding, but I will say that they did not end up getting married. I feel like at this point, if you don't know that,
yeah, it's shame on you.
yeah, it's kind of. I think the embargo on that has been lifted up, so they didn't get married, but there's still, you know, obviously something between them. And I keep telling people, if you read that annual, it's insinuated and implied that they end up together long after when they're older, and you know, like, so it's I didn't interpret that as the end, obviously, but you know, so they have this long history. You know, Talia and Bruce is weird because basically it's like Talia likes Bruce. You know what I mean? Like she's got affections for Bruce, but really it's Talia's dad that's like, yo, this dude, like it's kind of this arranged marriage situation where he's like, this is the one for you. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna succeed me. Where it's, you know, again, it's this weird thing where, like, you know, like by all right, like the League of Assassins is Talia. It's like whenever Ra's al Ghul dies, if that's even possible, like you know, like she's the heir. You know, but he's basically like, nah, I need a dude. So like, this is the dude that I choose for you. Get the detective. And she's kind of like, I mean, I could also do this, but that's fine, I guess. But you know, she obviously, you know, likes Bruce. And for Bruce, it's weird because, like, you know, with Selena, he's got this situation where you know, they definitely have a spark, they definitely have a connection, they definitely have the, you know, she's one of the only people who can understand him, and what he does, you know what I mean? Because obviously knowing that he's Batman, but you know, living that double life, you know, having grown up the way that she has, you know, they both have stories of loss, of pain, of kind of, you know, redeeming themselves. And you know, they believe in the same thing. Basically, they just go about doing it in different ways. But you know, they do fit together, they do work together. But Talia, on the other hand, is like, she's a whole other thing, you know what I mean? And she kind of, for Bruce, it's kind of like, it's that escape of like, you can stop pretending to be Bruce Wayne, like come over here and like Batman uninhibited, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I guess you kind of have to lead a assassin cult, you know, to that's the one caveat. But you know what I mean? But like war on crime, like, you know, again, Ra's al Ghul has been like, League of Assassin is whatever you want it to be. Like we don't have to be evil. Like we can wipe out crime if that's what you want. It's just this is what it is, though. You know, you got to do it this way. Right. So, you know, and again, Talia is every bit his equal intellectually, in terms of, you know, her physical ability. You know what I mean? So if there is a woman out there that is basically Batman, like it's Talia. Like Talia can do everything that Bruce Wayne can do. They ended up having a kid together. Bruce left that situation.
Very Scott, yes.
I mean, again, the way that it's kind of explained is that he didn't know that she was pregnant, and you know, then Damien kind of popped up one day, and he's like, "Oh, okay," but you know, so it's basically and in the lead up to the wedding issue, you know, Bruce did take Selena all the way out there to meet Talia to kind of like clear the air and just get this settled. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't coming to the wedding, but I'm doing you the courtesy of you know, you can meet the bride and we can kind of, you know, get all this out the way. So basically on the one hand, you've got Selena, you know, his kind of his ideal match, right? And then
Yeah.
you got the baby mama on the other side. Uh, Talia. Do you kind of fall one way or the other?
Yeah. And this one is probably the hardest one for me because I've always loved Catwoman to the point where over the course of this conversation, I was thinking about like what were some of my earlier experiences with comics, and there was one in particular where Selena Kyle was in an abusive home, I think like as a foster kid,
Hmm.
and she was saying, and I remember this clear as day as if it was yesterday, never back a cat into the corner, and whoever was her parent was like about to beat her, and she whooped that ass, and she like, and so ever since then, and I was like in elementary school when that came out, like I was team Selena,
Yeah.
um, and the different iterations of her over the years through comics, TV, and animated shows, I've always liked her. But
Hmm.
then enter Talia al Ghul, and she's new to me, but I like her just the same.
Yeah.
Um, and with her having the added one, having the kid, and two being Arabian, I'm there is a Robin that is the king of the or the next in line for the Batman throne, who is
Right.
a man of color, who
Yeah.
has the wealth of the Waynes and the wealth and heritage of the Al Ghul. It's like, bro, I
Yeah.
have to go with Talia, but it's such a minute head
Yeah.
of because they're so these two women, probably above all the others we've discussed, maybe not Emma, are like the baddest of bad to me.
Hmm.
Um, and not bad like bad guy, but just like bad, you know, kicking ass, doing things, self sufficient, don't need nobody for real, for real.
Right.
Because even Selena, like, you know, of course, the way with everything went, she still don't need a Batman.
Nope.
And out of her not needing a Batman, spend out her own solo series. So I just
Right.
I don't know. I'm Talia because of Damien, but if I'm to be quite honest, both of them are on par, and I'm for both of them, but not Bruce.
Yeah.
Uh,
Again, you'll hear me say this a lot on the show. Again, Bruce Wayne pretends to like women in order to keep up his cover as Batman. And that to me will
okay.
always be one of those things where it's just like that is just wow. You know what I mean? Like he's dating supermodels just so people don't think that he's Batman. Like there's got to be other ways
There
to do
is
that.
you can hire somebody like I thought you were
Yeah.
going to say that he was gay, but
Well, somebody on the previous episode suggested Batman is asexual,
I
which
yeah
could be. I mean, again, like he's obviously that's not the case because of all the things that have happened, but you know, I mean, ideally if for his lifestyle, that's probably the best
yeah
go.
honestly
You
yeah,
ain't gotta
but
worry about nothing. Just yeah. I mean, you know, you can still have relationships. Like it's just the you know, you're not sexually attracted to anybody.
yeah
So you can
yeah.
still, you know, have romantic relationships with people, but you know, it's just a different kind of thing. But for Batman,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, who is kind of it's Batman's always weird because Batman emotionally is just strange. And I never really know how to read him because sometimes, you know, he's written as more empathetic and
Yeah.
more you know, open to, you know, his son and the other Robins and, you know, the Bat
Mm-hmm.
family. Like he's, you know, he really cares about, you know, these people who are close to him. And then other
Mm-hmm.
times he's kind of written as like he could give a shit about anybody. You just kind of gets into these I'm gonna go brood in a cave moods, and you know, it's just like, all right, whatever. And again, I can't really imagine. Can you imagine being in a relationship with Bruce Wayne or Batman? You know what I mean? It's just kind of like every little fight turns into like this whole monologue about his parents and like crime and like, you know, he's kind of
Mm-mm.
like yeah, all right, Bruce, you know, like
Mm-mm.
you go punch somebody and get that out of your system. And
Yeah, he would his best relationship, and I hate to say it's with Alfred. That is his
yeah,
best relation, even though that is the father figure. Just it's he's too damaged. Not to say that he can never be fixed. Well, I don't want to
right,
say that be fixed, but he's too his character, his the trauma of his childhood is ingrained in every part of this character. So I
yeah,
can't. I honestly don't think he needs to be with anyone
Yeah, well, he's got to do some work on himself first before he.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. He Bruce, and he's not a
Yeah.
bad guy. He's just a victim
Wow.
of circumstance. And if he was a poor person when all that stuff happened, he would probably have ended up being a police officer or something. But you're all this wealth,
Yeah.
and yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, that guy.
um. Well, yeah. I mean, I think we've touched on a lot of the major ones. Is there before we wrap up? Was there any ones that you are
Yes,
lingering?
yes, and it's not comics. And I have been preaching this for the last couple months. Have you seen The Get Down?
I have not seen the Get Down yet. I need to watch that.
Okay. No spoilers, but well, maybe I shouldn't even say. Okay, there are three characters in that show that I personally feel like are in a love triangle that would eventually turn into a polyamorous relationship, because there's no
Mhm.
way you're not going to convince me. Now, if you're watching it as a heterosexual person who has been fed this lifestyle from childhood to now, you probably won't see it. But for someone who is on the queer spectrum, LGBT, whatever, I can clearly see the subtext in these relationships, and I'm just like, how do you not see this? So I'll
Yeah.
say this: anyone listening who have seen the Get Down, you know what I'm talking about. It's the main three of the main characters. But if you haven't, once it comes up, like I don't know, gaydar, queerdar, whatever, was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, it took a couple episodes because I was like, maybe I'm just thinking too much, but it ultimately gets said by one character later on. But I was like, yeah, this is some this is some sister wives polyamorous something. So I'll leave it there
All right.
since
Well,
you haven't seen it.
I guess yeah. So let's wrap up with this because this is something that I was thinking about before the show, and I can't think of any. Like I don't know if any has ever existed. Has there ever been any poly superhero
Hmm.
relationships? Has there ever been a situation where, these love triangles just turned into like, yeah, let's all like we should all just be a couple together instead of
You know,
let's fight.
I I don't know. I think if it has it all, it was probably with Jamie Madrox, and it may have been like accidentally, but I don't think that counts just by nature of his powers.
Right.
Um, I I would have to say it was probably a queer pairing that made, or
Yeah.
partnering that would make that, because I don't see any writers now, at least not at the big two, being aware enough to do that and do it tastefully.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I can't.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Something to
Hmm.
think about, something to research,
Yeah.
something that maybe, again, Marvel, DC, whoever, if you're listening, maybe that you work that into the next thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
all right. Well, I think that's gonna wrap it up for us. But again, Rain, plug all your stuff. Let everybody know what you got going
Yes.
on,
Yes.
where they can find
Well,
you.
everywhere. No. Carefreeblacknerd.com. That's the hub for everything social media, latest episodes. The most direct way to reach me would be Twitter, Carefree Blurred, or email carefreeblacknerd@gmail.com. I'm gonna have a slew of shows, ramping up the fall season, got more coming out, and just trying to improve on my craft.
All
So
right.
that's where you can find me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank everybody for listening, and catch you on the next episode.